How's it going, everyone? Marriland here, and this is Marriland's Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Pokémon Review series, which ties into my Ultra Moon walkthrough series. Although, don't worry, both the review and the walkthrough series apply for Pokémon Ultra Sun as well. This video goes over the various Pokémon and their evolutions that can be found in the listed area that also haven't been covered in a previous video. You can use the timestamps in the description to jump directly to the review that you want to hear. The reviews up ahead are for in-game purposes only and are not geared towards player versus player fights or post-game stuff. The stats you see listed are the Pokemon's base stats, not actual stats, and are the base of calculating stats at any level. Anyway, on with the reviews. Wingull's stats aren't that swell. They're really low, except for its great speed and workable special attack. Pelipper's stats get a bit better, with it having good defense and special attack, reasonable special defense, but actually a bit less speed than Wingull. It's not a ton to sing home about. However, it's not Wingull and Pelipper's stats that make them pretty good, but rather their moves, and especially Pelipper's new ability. First of all, Wingull with Keen Eye really aren't that great. You'll want a Wingull with Hydration, which probably won't see much use while you have it, but once your Wingull with Hydration evolves into Pelipper, it turns into the powerful Drizzle ability, which creates a rainstorm that lasts for 5 turns whenever it's sent out in battle. That rain effect raises the power of any Pokemon's Water-type moves by 50%, lowers the power of any Pokemon's Fire-type moves by 50%, and also makes Thunder perfectly accurate. That is huge, not just for Pelipper, but potentially for your team, depending on how it's set up. If you're interested in Pelipper with Drizzle, using Fire-type Pokemon on your team is a bad idea, because unless you have a way to get rid of that rain, which isn't easy, if you need to switch into your Fire-type Pokemon, it'll wind up only doing half as much damage with its Fire-type moves. Not good! However, Pelipper makes an excellent partner for any Grass or Bug Pokemon, and also decent for Steel or Ice as well. It provides a great counter to those types and makes good synergy. It's also good with Electric Pokemon because it gives them a perfectly accurate Thunder. Pelipper is a team player. What about its moves? Actually, they're not too shabby. Wingull gets Wing Attack at level 8, which is pretty strong, despite its low attack. It also gets Water Pulse at level 15, which is great, will hit hard, and also has a chance of confusing the foe. Nice! Air Cutter at level 22 is also a nice move for Wingull, and will hit harder than Wing Attack. After evolving into Pelipper at level 25, other level up moves that are good are Stockpile at level 33, which adds to Pelipper's defense and special defense, but don't bother with Spit Up or Swallow. They're not really worth it. Tailwind at level 44 can speed up not just Pelipper, but the rest of your team for a few turns as well. Lastly, at the end of the game, either at level 55 or by spending a heart scale, you can get Hurricane, a powerful flying type move that also has perfect accuracy with the rain in effect. For TM and Tutor moves, Echoed Voice is pretty good early on until you get Water Pulse, but once you clear the first island, you can actually teach Wingull Shockwave from a move tutor. Shocking! Icy Wind is also a really nice tutor move to learn, and will give Wingull a lot of variety. As a Pelipper, it can even learn Seed Bomb, a grass-type move, though Pelipper's attack isn't very good, so it's generally not recommended. U-turn for switching out to something else after setting up the rain is a reasonable option, and Blizzard and then later Ice Beam are also great Ice-type moves. Okay, so what about the other options? Well, being a water flying type, there are a ton of other options, but none of them get Drizzle. Well, not except for Politoed with its hidden ability, which is a pain to get. However, Gyarados is also a very solid water flying type that gives it direct competition, and that's just one alternative. But again, it doesn't have Drizzle. Also, odd as it sounds, it might not be awful to use 2 water types on your team if one of them is Pelipper with Drizzle. Why? Well, for one, water types have just 2 weaknesses by default, and Pelipper isn't even weak to grass thanks to being part flying. So something like Wishy-Washy for extreme, yet slow damage is a possibility. Lantern with Volt Absorb is also a brilliant combination, since you can easily switch to Lantern if you sense an electric type move, and can switch from Lantern to Pelipper if you're worried about ground or grass. Plus, both Pokemon get the boost from Drizzle. Overall, Wingull isn't all that great stat-wise, but has at least decent moves to make up for it, and Drizzle on Pelipper is really handy. Inkay and its evolution, Malamar, have the peculiar typing of Dark Psychic. That actually gives them very little in the way of weaknesses and resistances. Watch out for bugs and you'll usually be alright. Inkay also has a very unique way of evolving. At level 30, you need to hold your 3DS or 2DS upside down when it gains a level, including at level 30. Not at the end of the battle, but when it gains the level, so you have to keep an eye on your experience bar or just battle upside down for a while. Now, keep in mind, upside down means with your bottom screen on the top, not having the screens pointing away from you. That'd just be weird. Inkay has fine enough stats for the early game, but the problem is you'll have a hard time taking it from level 20 to level 30. It just has a hard time keeping up for that long. Once it's a Malamar, it gets a lot better, with good enough attack and defense, and otherwise normal stats. Both have 2 normal abilities, so there's a clear winner. Suction Cups is basically like the name implies. It sucks. Don't use it. You're missing out on Malamar's potential if you have it. Contrary is the real ability you want, which has a strange effect. Anytime your stats are lowered, they're raised instead. And whenever they're raised, they're lowered instead. Yikes! That's actually really helpful for all the times the foes use Growl, Leer, or have Intimidate. You'll get quite a few boosts from that. Just make absolutely sure you don't use any X items or other stat boosts on your Inkay or Malamar with Contrary, otherwise you'll be kicking yourself shortly afterwards. Inkay starts with Peck, oddly enough, but thankfully also has Reflect right from the get-go. Reflect is very helpful for raising your whole team's defense for the next 5 turns. It can be incredibly useful in totem fights, especially the first one, as well as some Grand Trials. At level 8, it gets Foul Play, a very strong 95 power Dark-type move, but it uses the target's attack stat and damage calculation rather than Inkay's. It's usually fine, and you'll find this move hitting like a truck early on. At level 15, it gets Topsy-Turvy. Here's a dilemma. For the most part, Topsy-Turvy isn't likely to help. But later in the game, when Totem Pokemon raise all of their stats, you can use Topsy-Turvy to completely cripple these tough boss fights. What does Topsy-Turvy do? Well, it's Inkay and Malamar's signature move, and it basically inverts any stat changes on the foe, meaning any of their stats that are raised are now lowered instead, and any of their stats that are lowered are now raised when you use the move. So if they're at +1, it'll change to -1. If they're at +2, it'll change to -2, and so on. Since you can't relearn this move if you remove it until after all of the totems have been beaten, you should think very carefully whether to eventually forget it or not. It's usually only helpful for those fights, so you'll be stuck with just 3 moves other than that, but boy can it be a wonderful move to pull off in those later fights. Anyway, other than that, Hypnosis at level 18 is nice to put the foe to sleep. Psybeam at level 21 gives you at least some psychic coverage, although keep in mind Inkay and Malamar are more geared towards physical moves. As a Malamar, Psycho Cut at level 39 is its go-to psychic-type move, and a solid choice. Night Slash at level 48 is also very good, and probably more reliable than Foul Play. Its final move, Superpower at level 48, is absolutely stellar on Malamar with Contrary. It's a 120 power fighting-type move that lowers the user's attack and defense after use. But for a Malamar with Contrary, it's a super strong move that raises Malamar's attack and defense afterwards. Wow, that's super. It doesn't get a ton of TM moves that are worthwhile, and virtually no good tutor moves, but it does get both Reflect and Light Screen early on, which let Inkay help out your team early on as well. Psychic is reasonable for it when you get it, but should be replaced with Psycho Cut. Return is also a solid attacking move, but you'll likely toss it to the side once you get Superpower. There are quite a few other Dark-type choices though, and a lot of them are right around the corner. Zordoa is available on the next route and evolves at the same level, level 30. Zoroark has excellent attacking stats and is a great Pokemon. Muck is also really good, but evolves terribly late. There's also Mr. Mime and Alakazam for Psychic types nearby, and neither take an eternity to level up and evolve either. Overall, I'd say Inkay is okay. Malamar is pretty cool, but very gimmicky, and the wait it takes to get it, as well as the process of flipping your 3DS or 2DS upside down, is just a bit much to bear. Hello there. Slowpoke is a water psychic type, and it's very slow. Anyway, Slowpoke is indeed a water psychic type, and it is indeed very slow. It's also a Pokemon that can evolve into 2 separate evolutions, either Slowbro at level 37 or Slowking by trading it to another game while holding a King's Rock. Slowpoke starts out with reasonably good stats for an unevolved Pokemon, at least early in the game. It's got great hit points and decent attack and defense. As expected, its speed is pitiful, but surprisingly it's not the slowest Pokemon in Alola. There are several more Pokemon slower than Slowpoke. Go figure. Anyway, Slowbro and Slowking's stats are nearly identical, except with their defense and special defense swapped. Both have great hit points, workable attack, great special attack, and then lousy speed. Slowbro has some great defense and decent special defense, while Slowking is the opposite, with high special defense and pretty good defense. Either way, Slowbro and Slowking are both very bulky, solid Pokemon, and can easily take even super effective hits. Their abilities aren't overly exciting, getting either Oblivious or Own Tempo for their normal abilities. Own Tempo is probably a little bit better for in-game purposes, which prevents confusion. Now, before I go on, it's really important to talk about what to do with Slowpoke. Level 37 is a long way into the game, and Slowpoke really isn't going to be very good after the first island due to its low stats. The King's Rock item also isn't an item you'll just randomly be picking up. It's only given to you in the post-game. However, if you're willing to put a little bit of time into it, you could get a King's Rock and a Slowking after the first trial. Wild Hawlucha on Route 3 have a rare chance of holding a King's Rock. If you have a Butterfree with Compound Eyes, it boosts the chance of wild Pokemon holding a held item, and then you can teach Thief via TM to the Butterfree so you can steal the King's Rock. Using SOS battles should make that an easier process too. Then you'll just need either a second game and second 3DS system or a friend to help you evolve Slowpoke. Also, for that matter, you can also get Slowbro earlier on by SOS battles in Kalae Bay, but that's pretty time consuming and quite a bit later on. I just thought I'd mention it. Anyway, Slowpoke starts off with Curse and Yawn. Curse raises its attack and defense, but lowers its speed, which doesn't really matter. Curse is great against early fights, and Slowpoke's attack and defense are both pretty good at that point. Yawn also puts the foe to sleep after the next turn ends. It gets a few basic moves early on, but doesn't really get anything overly remarkable until level 36. As a Slowpoke, it gets Slack Off, but as a Slowking, it gets Nasty Plot at that level instead, and Nasty Plot is pretty cool due to raising Slowking's special attack by 2 stages. Slowbro gets Amnesia at level 43 to boost its special defense by 2 stages, while Slowking does not. Other than that, there aren't a lot of great moves that are worthwhile that can't be learned by a TM or tutor. Boy, do these slow Pokemon get a lot of interesting TM and tutor moves though. Even Slowpoke can learn so many TM and move tutor moves. Early on, Slowpoke can get Signal Beam, although Slowpoke's special attack isn't great like its evolutions. As either a Slowbro or a Slowking, well, as a Slowpoke in most cases even, Psychic is a must-have, and you'll get that way sooner than you'll learn it naturally. Shadow Ball, Grass Knot, and even Flamethrower and Fire Blast, surprisingly enough, are all pretty good options. Ice Beam and or Blizzard are pretty good as well, as is Focus Blast, although the latter two are rather inaccurate. There are plenty of other water-type Pokemon out there, as well as another good water psychic type named Starmie, who actually has great speed and equal special attack, although is a little less solid. There's also Bruxish much later on, which shares the water psychic typing. The fact that you have to wait nearly an eternity to get Slowpoke to evolve into Slowbro is a real pain, but getting Slowking by hunting for the King's Rock and then trading to evolve it will give you a very strong Pokemon for getting through the second island. Alright, that's it for this Pokemon review episode. If you enjoyed it, perhaps consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the Marriland channel for more. And if you have any other cool strategies, ideas, recommended moves, or overall opinion on any of the Pokemon here, even if you just like it for being adorable or something, feel free to leave a comment down below to get the discussion going. You can find more Pokemon reviews, as well as my Pokemon Ultra Moon walkthrough series, in the links below in the description or on this end screen. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.